Ice Age is a really weird animated movie franchise. Nobody ever talks about it. And when they do, they talk about how nobody ever talks about it. It's not a beloved franchise like the Toy Story, Shrek, or Kung Fu Panda movies. It's not a major presence in online meme culture like the Hotel Transylvania or Despicable Me movies. It's not even a viciously hated franchise like the Boss Baby or Cars movies. Ice Age is a franchise that exists in that limbo of not being very popular, yet somehow raking in billions of dollars at the box office and being an entire animation studio's moneymaker. 6 movies. Really? Geez, if you milk a cow any harder than that, its udders are gonna catch on fire. I'll admit, that's most of the reason why I never checked out these movies. They didn't really seem that interesting to me. The only experience I have with this series is seeing Ice Age 3 in theaters when I was like 7. But, being a huge fan of the animation medium, I thought I owed it to myself to finally check out this cultural question mark of a series. I honestly kinda fucking regret it, guys. So here it is, my retrospective on all the Ice Age movies. This video won't be a history lesson on the entire franchise's creation or anything like that. This is more so the perspective of a newcomer on a successful animated juggernaut. If you are interested in seeing a more behind the scenes look into these movies, check out the Glad and Gladiators 3.5 hour long Ice Age retrospective. It's really good, and kind of the whole inspiration for this video. A flurry of shitty ice puns are abound. Let us commence with... Alright, let's break the ice. The animation in this movie looks like shit. Props to some of the character designs for looking good, and some of the backgrounds for looking good, but everything else, worse looking than Toy Story 1. The first CGI animated movie ever made. The range of expressions is embarrassingly small, the fur textures on the animals look like booty, and the humans look like they were all flattened by a giant mallet. Damn, it's no wonder people memed on the Ice Age baby a few years ago. This thing is going to give my nightmares. Okay, so the animation has not held up at all, but thankfully the rest of the movie is decent. It's about what I expected from a massive franchise that no one really talks about. It's the Ice Age, duh, and Manny the Mammoth, Sid the Sloth, and Diego the Saber-toothed Tiger must form an unlikely friendship to take care of a lost human child and return it to its father. Little do they know that Diego is actually conspiring against them, as he's leading the trio to his Saber-toothed Tiger pack so they can take the baby for themselves. You know that generic cartoon stock plot where the main character has to take care of a baby that almost always end up really shitty? Mostly literally. That's essentially what this movie is, but thankfully not as shitty for the most part. Look, I said for the most part, okay? Yeah, this movie's humor is more of a mixed bag than a trick-or-treater's pillowcase. Sometimes it's funny.
How do we know it's an Ice Age? Because of all the ice!
And sometimes it's poop! 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 Maybe that's one of the reasons why this movie caught on and made so much money? Its humor, while being mostly childish, still had a couple laughs in there for adults.
It's not much to look at, but it's so hard to find a Family Guy.
But honestly, I think the main reason why this movie became the mammoth-sized box office smash we all know it today is because of the characters. I don't really like Manny that much. He's just kind of a prick. I get that the point of his character is that he's supposed to be a stubborn, grouchy douchebag, but you can make a character an asshole and funny at the same time. Drawing the Toy Story comparison again, that was basically Woody's character. He was a huge jackass to the other characters in the first movie, but they walked that tightrope of making sure not to make him too mean, while also giving him funny dialogue at the same time. Also, his redemption was handled really well, and so is Manny's, to be fair. The cave scene where Manny remembers his old family who were killed by humans without saying a single word is honestly really powerful stuff. This is why I say that characters are the single most important piece of any given media. You can appreciate stuff like visuals, music, comedy, etc. But for me personally, it's the characters that make or break a piece of media. And this scene is the perfect example of that. Alright, who else we got? Sid the Sloth. He is actually my favorite character of the main trio, believe it or not. I was expecting him to be the obnoxious, cum-stained sidekick character and nothing else, but they do a really good job of balancing out his emotions. That, and he doesn't let the other characters push him around as much as I was expecting. He's pretty quick-witted for being one of the slowest creatures on Earth. My only gripe in this first movie is that I wish we would have delved a little deeper into his abandonment issues with his family, but I guess one of the future movies does that anyway. Then, of course, there's Diego. No, not the stupid Mexican boy who talks to animals on Nick Jr. The saber-toothed tiger who easily has the strongest character arc in the film. It's genuinely investing to see him grow an attachment to Sid and Manny, so much so that he ends up going back on his plan at the last second in what is legitimately one of the better liar revealed scenes I've seen in a movie. It also just helps that he's the straight man character. Those are usually fun. Oh, Scrat! It's crap! Wait, no, that's not right. Oh, crap! It's Scrat! Yeah, I'm also shocked I've gone this long without talking about this Ren and Stimpy Furiosi, who's not only the mascot of the entire franchise, but the mascot of Blue Sky Studios as a whole. I went into this franchise expecting to hate this little dude, but to my surprise, I actually ended up really liking him. Admittedly, the first movie is where he's at his weakest, in my opinion, as it is the movie where he gets the least amount of screen time, but he does genuinely get better and better with each movie. So, yeah, Ice Age 1. Not a great movie or anything, the animation looks like poo-poo, the humor is incredibly hit or miss, and most of the character arcs aren't as strong as I would have liked, but I think it's all held up by the character stuff. Except for the villain, his motivation didn't really make much sense. 7 out of 10, pretty decent first movie, though for a movie called Ice Age, it really has shown its age, more so than most first movies from major animation studios. Also, say goodbye to the humans. We literally never see or hear of them again in this entire franchise. Not sure if that's a good or a bad sign. Now, when you're a sequel, especially to a movie as monumental as Ice Age, there are two things that you can be. Better or worse than the previous movie. Which one is Ice Age 2? It's worse. I'm not even gonna drag this out. It's like substantially worse. I don't know what the general consensus on Ice Age 2 is, but I see most people regard this one as weaker than the first. I mean, damn, at least the first one was good. This one is just, The story this time around is, well, right in the title. Ice all over the world is starting to melt, including close to where our heroes are. A vulture tells the local wildlife that if they want any chance of surviving, they'll have to reach a boat several miles away that'll carry them to safety. On their journey, our main trio encounters another mammoth named Ellie, and her two possum brothers, Crash and Eddie, doubling our main character count from 3 to 6. Will our heroes be able to outrun the flood and make it to safety in time? I mean, obviously. There's still like 100 fucking movies after this one. What did you think? The first immediate thing you'll notice is, hey, the animation doesn't look like someone smeared sloth droppings all over the screen anymore. It still doesn't hold up by today's standards, but for 2006, this looks pretty good actually. Hooray! This was only the third movie Blue Sky Studios ever made, too, with their second movie, Robots, being sandwiched in between the first two Ice Age movies. Robots is a very based and goated movie, by the way, and one of my favorite Blue Sky movies, but that's a topic for another lifetime. Point is, Ice Age 2 is a lot easier on the eyes than the first one will ever be. And for future reference, this is an upticking trend that we're going to continue to see as the movies go on. Wanna know what didn't get better from the previous movies? Literally almost everything else! Okay, no, actually, that's a bold-faced lie. There's one other thing this movie does better than the first movie for me, and that's the use of Scrat. His antics in this one are pretty fun. I like how he ends up saving the day at the end by complete accident, and then the bastard literally dies and almost goes to heaven. This basically confirms that there's an afterlife in the Ice Age universe. So, does this mean Sid could hypothetically go to hell? But yeah, every other aspect of this movie is either done on the same level as the first movie, or worse than the first movie. The humor is about on the same level as last time. Sometimes it can get a laugh, but there's just as many, if not even more, poop jokes this time. Yay! That actually perfectly segues into my main problem with Ice Age 2. The writing is bad. There are plot holes up the ass. Like, why does the vulture near the beginning help the characters and tell them where to go if he wants to eat them? He even mentions how he wants to eat them. What is wrong with you, you flying freak? This film is more bloated than an inflation fetish artist's porn folder. There's so much filler. Why is there a scene where Sid gets kidnapped by baby sloths and it's never mentioned again until the very end of the movie? Why is there a scene where the vultures sing about eating the characters but don't actually eat the characters? Why is there a scene that builds up one of the most unfunny poop jokes I have ever seen in my life? Why does the writing in this movie suck more than a baby cow sucks its mom's udders? That is the second cow analogy of this video. What the fuck? The worst of it, though, without a doubt, are the character arcs. Not the characters themselves, but the arcs they go through. Ellie is the only one of the bunch who has a good arc. Her flashback is the best scene in the movie, and her thinking she's a possum, as ridiculous of an idea as it is, weirdly works because they resolve it halfway through the movie instead of dragging it out. Diego's arc of overcoming his fear of water is decent, but doesn't get the screen time it needs. Sid's arc of wanting to take care of children is literally only mentioned at the beginning of the movie and then never again. And no, I'm not counting the baby sloth scene. Crash and Eddie and Manny, what the fucksicles did they do to him? Manny was my least favorite character from the first film, yeah, but he at least had a good redemption. The idea of Manny coping with being the last mammoth on Earth is a good one, but it all falls apart with his relationship with Ellie. Oh boy, okay, so there's a scene in this picture where Manny starts hitting on Ellie, like, very soon after they meet. Ellie understandably gets upset over this and storms off. Then in a later scene where all of their lives are threatened in an admittedly cool set piece where they have to balance on a bunch of differently shaped rocks over a cliff, Manny and Ellie start fighting again, and Manny refuses to apologize for essentially sexually harassing her, and Ellie is the one who ends up apologizing for overreacting even though she's the victim in the situation? What the fuck? Who do you think you are, Manny? Chris Savino? Oh, what's that? You say you're mad because I broke into your house, stole all of your food, burned your house down, killed your entire family, and left you homeless on the street? Well, I didn't do anything wrong. You're just overreacting. And then, after they've already made up, they fight again in what is one of the most forced end of second act main character split-ups I've ever seen. And yet they still get together at the end. Their relationship was shown to be extremely toxic. They were basically playing tug-of-war with a cactus the whole movie. Oh yeah, also the ending has a huge ass pull where they show that they aren't actually the last mammoths. Great! So, yeah, Ice Age 2 is not very good. I still struggle to call it straight up bad since it's improved in terms of the animation, Scrat's bits are genuinely really good now, and there are still a few good scenes, but otherwise the writing completely tanks this movie. 5 out of 10, the production crew really seemed to have a meltdown with this one. Let's just hope it dawns on them to make a better movie next time. Bazinga! Ice Age 3: Dawn of the Dinosaurs is the best Ice Age movie, and it's not even close. Like, it's incredible how much this movie outclasses all of the other ones. I don't know if it's just me being biased since this is the only Ice Age movie I've seen prior to watching this series, or if it's just the fact that it has dinosaurs in it, but either way, this movie is so good. It builds on the whole Sid wants to take care of children thing that was kinda a thing in the second movie. It does it better here than the second movie could ever dream of doing. Although, to be fair, that's like comparing pepperoni pizza to pineapple pizza. One is obviously so much better than the other. God, the second movie just gets worse and worse the more I think about it, guys, I swear to Christ. The story isn't anything too crazy. Sid finds some dinosaur eggs and takes care of the baby dinosaurs that hatch from them, but soon the real mother T-Rex arrives and takes the babies, along with Sid, back to their home, which is a lost world of dinosaurs under the ice. Now it's up to our heroes to journey to this dangerous dino dwelling and rescue Sid. Meanwhile, Ellie is pregnant with a baby, and Diego and Manny have a kinda, sorta falling out due to Diego wanting to leave the herd and be more independent. And yeah, let's get this out of the way. The only thing I don't like about Ice Age 3 is that Manny is still a huge prick. Specifically to Diego, who just calmly and rationally explains to Manny that he might want to leave the herd because he's not comfortable with being a part of it after Ellie gives birth. And Manny just blows up at him out of nowhere. Even Diego comments on how much of a cock he's being. Damn, bro, let him cook. Manny is kind of terrible in all of these movies, and I don't understand why he's the main protagonist in this series. Luckily, outside of that one scene, this is probably the best portrayal of Manny in the series. Best being in quotes, of course. Helped by a couple of sweet scenes later in the movie. And the good news is, outside of that one negative thing, I love everything else about Ice Age 3. Like the dinosaurs! Woo! Hell yeah! Dinosaurs are some of the most objectively coolest things to ever exist, and I absolutely adore the way they're used in this movie. There's a Flintstones reference in this movie, which a majority of people would probably complain about, but I just don't even care, man. I find it really charming.
Oh, don't ever yabba dabba do that again!
There's a scene where Manny and Diego have to fight off a group of velociraptors while Ellie is giving birth! Hello! There's a scene where a certain character I'll talk about soon, and Crash and Eddie have to pilot a pterodactyl like a fighter jet while fighting off other pterodactyls. My Jurassic Park bias shines through and I couldn't be more proud. And Sid's plot is really sweet too. Throughout the majority of the movie, he forms a genuinely sweet bond with the T-Rex babies as well as the T-Rex mama, in some really charming scenes showing off their differences in parenting styles. It's actually really well done and humanizes Sid even more so than the first two movies did. This is taking the seed that was planted from the first two movies of him wanting to take care of children and growing it into a beautiful family tree. I may or may not have teared up when they separated at the end. I also may or may not have teared up at the scene where Ellie gives birth to their daughter Peaches and both her and Manny see her for the first time. Ice Age 3 has no right trying as hard as it does, and it's absolutely nutty. Speaking of which, yeah, I'm not even gonna lie, the stuff with Scrat-Et is legitimately really funny, and the conclusion to the entire subplot made me burst out laughing in a way that nothing else in this entire franchise has done. Nah, but you know what time it is. The best thing, and not only in this entire movie, but honestly the entirety of Blue Sky Studios. Buck Wild! Woo! I don't know how they managed to make a character this perfect, but he was handcrafted to us by the gods. Look at him. He is so perfect. I love the way he is animated. I love his personality. I love how he balances being both an insane, goofy, eccentric weirdo and a genuinely really cool swashbuckling adventurer at the same time. I love his rivalry with the other dinosaur named Rudy, who, oh my god, can we talk about Rudy as well? He is built up throughout most of the movie as like this huge threat, right? But we never see him until the climax, and he's way bigger and scarier than all the other dinosaurs we've seen up to this point, and God, I fucking love this movie! I was afraid that this being the only movie in the franchise I've seen before doing this marathon would make me biased, and yeah, that's kinda true, but I was utterly gobsmacked at how well it holds up today. It's not like one of the greatest movies I've ever seen or anything, but it is easily the best movie in the series, and it's not even close. It's a 9 out of 10, and I wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone who loves dinosaurs. You don't even have to see the other movies to enjoy this one. 65 million years ago, a badass movie was made. It took an ice age and a meltdown for it to happen, but the dawn of the dinosaurs shook the earth to its core. Now, let's see what happens when the continents start to drift. Oh boy, it's the fourth movie syndrome! Ice Age deadass pulled a Toy Story and Shrek and extended a trilogy with a pointless fourth movie that didn't need to be made, right? You guys literally peaked with the third movie. Why in the name of Mount Everest would you guys even bother making a fourth one? Except, no. I love Toy Story 4, and Shrek 4 is my favorite Shrek movie, as long as we're not counting Puss in Boots 2. So, let's give the poor bastard a fair shot, huh?
1 hour later.
Okay, call me crazy on Blu-ray and DVD, but I actually liked this one. In fact, this one might end up being my second favorite. Sorry, not sorry. So, we're at that point in the timeline where all of the continents on Earth start filing for divorce and end up splitting apart. And of course, our frosty friends end up getting caught in the middle of all this bedlam. With Manny, Sid, Diego, and Sid's grandma, I'll explain why she's here later, getting lost at sea on a chunk of ice. Meanwhile, Manny and Ellie's daughter, Peaches, who I barely brought up at all in the last review, whoops, tries hitting on this other mammoth she has a crush on, but hurts the feelings of her mole friend in the process. Wait, if this sequel takes place over a decade after the last movie, why is Peaches the only character who has visibly aged up? Oh well. At least these movies understand the concept of age better than the Cars movies. Ayo! I find it so funny how we went from a pretty grounded in reality first film to a franchise that has become about dinosaurs and pirates. That's just fucking funny, honestly. And yeah, those said pirates are the best part of Ice Age numero 4. Captain Gut is the first time it feels like this franchise actually tried with an actual villain. And yeah, similarly to how Buck Wild carried most of the last movie, Captain Gut pretty much carries this movie. He's voiced by Peter Dinklage, aka the guy who voices the Mighty Eagle in the Angry Birds movies, who is in my top 10 favorite fictional birds of all time, alongside Birdly and I don't know, I like the Fruit Loops toucan, I guess. Captain Gut even has his own villain song, which is the only musical number in any of these movies, and it's surprisingly good.
Well, I don't want to gloat, but I would like to note that you're in love.
Like, I actually had the song stuck in my head after the movie was over. Damn, okay, I didn't expect Ice Age 4, Continental Drift of all movies, to have a legitimately good villain and villain song, but go off, I guess. The actual adventure the main trio goes on is a really exciting one, actually. They get attacked by a giant crab, they wash up on this tropical island, they get attacked by a gang of shape-shifting sirens, there's an epic pirate battle at the end. This is like if they made Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze into a B-tier movie. But then I remember that the other side of this iceberg is melting, and I just become depressed. Why is there a dumb, stupid, idiot poo-poo subplot where the teenage daughter mammoth tries to hit on some other dickhole mammoth? This is a waste of time and animators' talent. Take me back to the actually fun pirate stuff, please! Oh yeah, and of course there's a scene where Manny shows up and acts like a cunt to his daughter in public because we gotta have the metaphorical rift between Manny and Peaches as well as the literal one. I get that Peaches was technically in the wrong here, but I don't care. Manny is a terrible character. Look, if you're gonna write an asshole character, that's fine, but you actually have to give them redeeming qualities. Either make them funny, make them sympathetic, or both. They made Manny sympathetic in the first movie and then never again. And they try to make him sympathetic again here by making him an overprotective dad, but it doesn't work. You want to know a good character who is an overprotective dad while also being an asshole who is both hilarious and sympathetic? Dracula from the Hotel Transylvania movies. He is literally just Manny's character done right. Why is this stupid furry fucker the main character of this franchise again? Let's see, who else do we got? Sid's family shows up for the first time in the series, so you think, oh, are they finally gonna explore Sid's abandonment issues? But I'm not even gonna let myself finish that sentence because the answer is obviously a resounding no. They just dump Sid's grandma into the movie and then leave. There's like one scene where Sid talks about his abandonment issues.
Granny, why didn't our family want us? What's wrong with us?
They think we're screw-ups, and we can't do anything right.
Which is an admittedly nice scene, but that's it. Just that one scene. Diego's entire arc this time is that he falls in love with another saber-toothed tiger, who also happens to be Captain Guts' first mate. She's an alright character. Could have been really fun if they fleshed her out a bit more. There's nothing new to say about Scrat this time, his stuff is still really good, helped by the fact that the animation just keeps getting better and better with every movie. The very last scene in the movie, which takes place in Scratlantis, made me cough up my vital organs laughing. This is easily the best Scrat bit in any of these movies. And then, LA Crash and Eddie do basically nothing.
Nothing!
Hooray! Ice Age 4 is pretty good. The stuff that sucks about it does weigh the movie down, but the fun pirate adventure is good enough to where I can still call this a good movie. And of course, like all the other aging ice films, this one made hundreds of millions of dollars at the box office, meaning they had to make one more sequel. A high 7 out of 10, this film is the second best one by default because it's the only one to have a gay kissing scene. Ayo, based? Hello, base department? Why does a cartoon saber-toothed tiger have more game than me? What the fuck? I didn't feel like making a pun for the movie transition this time because, well, it's Ice Age 5. Do you really care if my segment on Ice Age 5 is very pun-heavy? I don't think so. Collision Course is regarded by most people, even people who adore this franchise, as the worst of the main 5 films, even possibly the worst film Blue Sky Studios has ever made. Okay, first of all, no. No Blue Sky movie will ever be worse than Rio 2, because that movie is a piece of bird shit, and merely thinking about it gives me a conniption. Second of all, is it really worse than Ice Age 2? Because I really did not like that one. Well, Ice Age 5 is about a meteor hurtling towards Earth, which freaks out our main cast because Peaches is about to get married or something. So the amazing and epic Buck Wild returns to guide our heroes to stop the meteor. He's still the best character in this entire franchise, and he pretty much carries this entire movie. Let's go! Something I realized 5 movies in is that all of these movies basically have the same plot of characters walk from point A to point B while clearing dangerous obstacles along the way. That's like if I made a movie about wanting to go to McDonald's, so the entire movie is about me walking to McDonald's, except along the way I had to fight an evil wizard and his evil pet chihuahua named Churro, or some shit. It didn't bother me in the other movies because they all felt different enough from each other to be distinct. Collision Course just feels like a retread of Dawn of the Dinosaurs again, but not nearly as good. Also, the main thing I noticed this time around is that there are several, and I mean several, points during the movie where the characters will just kind of subtly break the fourth wall and acknowledge how bad their own writing is. Like, one of the characters will point out something that doesn't make sense, or how whatever they're doing in the current moment is really stupid. You know, that whole shebang. This movie also has references to the internet for some reason. There's a whole scene where Sid mentions his profile picture on a dating site. There's also a scene where Crash and Eddie use the word hashtag, despite them literally pointing out not knowing what the word hashtag means. You guys live in the fucking Ice Age! You are not supposed to know what the internet is! Okay, let's talk about Crash and Eddie. I didn't really go into depth with them before because, well, there's really nothing to talk about. I didn't like them, but I didn't hate them either. They were always just kinda there. They're little shit stains in this movie, though. Most of the quote-unquote humor in this film comes from them, and most of it is either unfunny toilet humor or just them screaming their lines at the top of their lungs. What is this, the Fairly Odd Parents Season 10? It's like the writers were so insecure about their own writing abilities that whenever they wanted to get a laugh from the little kids in the audience, they would just have Crash and Eddie do something wacky and random XD. This is so puzzling to me because outside of the Scrat stuff, most of the good humor from these movies just came from the characters' dynamics just naturally bouncing off of each other. Now the characters bounce off of each other about as well as a flat whoopee cushion would bounce off of tape. Speaking of characters, the quote-unquote villains in this movie. Okay, so the villains' plan is that they want to stop Buck Wild from stopping the meteor so that the meteor will destroy the Earth and they will fly over the explosion so that they can rule the destroyed world.
What? What?
I don't even need to explain how utterly moronic that is because the movie does it for me. Wow. After all this bitching I've been doing, is there anything good about Ice Age 5? Like, at all? Well, yes actually. Peach's boyfriend Julian is a really nice addition to the cast. He is voiced by Adam Devine, aka Pizza Steve from Uncle Grandpa, which is a cartoon that only Chadpoles watch. He brings a much needed boost of energy and positivity to the movie, especially because this might be Manny's worst portrayal yet. Considering how he spends most of the film scheming how he can break up Peaches and Julian and ruin his daughter's happiness. I swear to God, I will go into this movie and shoot you down with a sharpshooter, you leaky taint! Oh yeah, that's right. Positives. The Scrat stuff is still really good. Sure, these segments have gone completely off the rails in terms of groundedness and believability, but in a really fun way, I feel. It's really sad when the Scrat stuff is unironically the best part of an Ice Age movie. Oh wait, no, the best scene in the movie is Buck Wild's introduction scene, where he initially defeats the group of dinosaurs while the camera does an admittedly really impressive long take. It's really fluid and well animated too. Like I mentioned before, the animation just keeps getting better and better with these movies, and I think we've reached that crescendo right here. And yeah, that's all the positives I've got, LMAO. Going back to the question I proposed at the start of this segment, which movie is worse, 2 or 5? Well, while this one undoubtedly has worse writing, I honestly have a lot more fun watching this one than I do Ice Age 2. And I think off of that principle alone, the fact that I get way more entertainment value watching this one, I'll put it just a hair above Ice Age 2. It's still only like a 5 out of 10 though. I may be swinging an ice pick at a hornet's nest here, not calling Ice Age 5 the worst one, but oh well. It even ends on an epic dance party ending, so that's how you know this franchise stopped here. Right? Right? Kill me! The Buck Wild movie. You know, I originally wasn't even going to talk about this one since it's not even a main Ice Age movie, but I felt like torturing myself today, so here goes. The Adventures of Buck Wild is not a movie. It is a collection of sights and sounds to produce an MP4 file on somebody's computer. Because that's all this movie is, an MP4 file. It only exists as a desperate form of brand extension so that Disney can squeeze a little extra money out of the Ice Age franchise after they acquired the rights to it. Also, fuck them for shutting down Blue Sky and firing all of their animators. That fact alone gets more of a negative reaction out of me than anything happening in this MP4 file. Yes, that does include the fact that, with the exception of Buck himself, all of the voice actors for the other characters have been replaced. This would probably piss me off a lot more if I cared. Oh yeah, not to mention that the animation looks like shit. All of the characters have different looking models now, and it's super distracting. They all look like bootleg Barbie dolls. Why did it have to be this way? It's Disney, the most powerful corporation on planet Earth. They could have just given the animators the budget to make this look passable. This is especially noticeable with Buck, and that leads to probably my biggest grievance with this entire MP4 file. Buck's character was completely butchered in this. Most of his appeal in this series comes from his wacky and fluid animation, as well as his eccentric but insane personality. Buck has this magnetic charisma that is so strong that I genuinely struggle to think of other fictional characters that match his energy. That's why I like him so much. That's why everyone likes him so much. Well, the animation looks like puke, so there goes his fluid expressiveness. Also, they almost completely tone down his wacky charisma and make him a lot more serious. So congratulations, Buck Wild movie. You completely missed the point of your main character. This would probably piss me off a lot more if I cared. Then there's the villain. He's this Jimmy Neutron looking ass dinosaur who has an annoying voice and never does anything threatening ever. He also has these velociraptor minions, I guess, and they have quite possibly the worst dinosaur designs I have ever seen in my life. These don't even look like dinosaurs. They look like the mascot for some unknown cereal. So, cool. This MP4 file managed to screw up Buck Wild and dinosaurs. Two of my favorite things of all time. That is really sad. A majority of the notes I took while watching this thing were just of how bored I was. It actually took me 3 sittings just to watch it from beginning to end, which is something I never do. This would probably piss me off a lot more if I cared. I guarantee you that I put 10 times more effort into writing this really short review than most of the people who worked on this MP4 file. This was such a huge waste of my time, and I've already forgotten about the existence of the Adventures of Buck Wild, even while I'm writing this. Well then, that was the Ice Age franchise. Kind of a sour note to end on, but trust me, my thoughts on the Buck Wild movie do not reflect my opinions on the series as a whole. If I had to rank these just to fit with the theme of rankings that I love to do so much, from worst to best it would go the Buck Wild movie, Ice Age 2, Ice Age 5, Ice Age 1, Ice Age 4, and of course Ice Age 3 at the top. We got 1 really bad movie, 2 mediocre movies, 2 good movies, and 1 really good movie. That is a pretty split down the middle franchise if I've ever seen one. So, yeah, despite my overall mixed thoughts, I'm glad I gave Ice Age a shot. Not only did I find some legitimately good stuff here, but I felt I owed it to myself as a massive animation fan to check out such a huge series. Even if it was only huge in the amount of money it made, and not necessarily huge on the quality of its impact. It also encouraged me to check out Blue Sky Studios, which is an animation studio I had next to no prior experience with. So that was also fun. Even despite all of this, despite not thinking the Ice Age series is that great as a whole, it's still probably better than the Frozen movies, ha ha!